All right, I do have a microphone. It's working. Slow fade music. What's up? Oh, I'm so excited about this. What are you pointing at, Andrew?
I don't know.
Doc, what's up? Lauren, what's up? Andrew said, "Here we go." Andrew, you could have just said that out loud. That's great.
Well, I did it before the stream went live.
And Andrew, you have such a cool badge. How did you get that?
Oh,
because
shit,
I
so
supported the show.
He's so good at this.
I'm our very first supporter, aren't I?
That's true. Yeah. I tried to support, and then it turns out if you start the channel, you can't. So I'm somehow like, I'm kind of jealous of you in a weird way, but it's fine. Cool.
I'm okay with you being jealous.
Okay, yeah, I know you are. Session 0. Will, let's throw it to you and let's get going.
All right. Hey, everybody. Hey, table. We're just playing Dungeons and Designers, also known as Dungeons and Dragons. Today's just gonna be like a really low stakes meeting where we can all introduce each other, get to know each other, figure out what we're doing in this campaign. Yeah, really, all I really want this to be is like a place where we can get to go know each other and like feel comfortable. I know Patrick and Andrew a little bit. I'm pretty sure I met Ray at least once, and I don't know Tracy at all. So what I would love to do, just to start this off for my benefit and anyone watching or listening's benefit, I would love just to start with like introductions and go around the table. What I would like for you guys to share is your connection to the design industry and what you know about D&D or your experiences with D&D.
Great. So I'm gonna go first only because I want people to forget about me. Like, I would hate to be the end of this train.
You're not the headliner.
No, and I recognize that. So I'm going to jump in. By the way, hello, Mark Bowden. How are you doing? Okay.
Mike.
What did you want from us? To know how
I'm
involved?
Your connection to the industry, design specifically, and how much D&D you've played or your experiences with D&D.
Perfect. Okay, so design through osmosis. Like, I'm close to it. Obviously, doing M of 1, doing this network. Honestly, complete outsider. But I just love all of you people so much, and I can't stay away. I actually do development, so most of my connection is through implementing great designs, not through actually designing. That said, my experience with D&D, I actually think my first time playing was within the last year, maybe, something like that. Like, it hasn't been a very long time. I am DMing a campaign now, or a group, whatever the word is. I don't even know the words. So I do have a group I'm DMing, and then I also have now 2 other groups that I'm in as well. So it's becoming an increasing part of my life, but I'm still very much a noob, and I will fail at a lot of things.
Great. That's exactly what we want.
Yeah.
Who should we go to next on your setup?
Let me do it.
It should be Andrew. Yeah.
Yeah. If we're doing this in order of
importance, Andrew, you're next for sure.
We should not do that. No, we should not. Like,
and then
do that.
We'll let the 2 of you guys roll for who goes next. How about that? But for sure, the bottom 2, it's Patrick and I. That's without a doubt. Okay. My role in design is I've been a graphic designer for over 20 years. That's a crazy thought to say out loud. Graphic designer, and then I work in communications and marketing stuff, and I do design and illustration literally every day of my life. And I'm connected to the network because it's my network.
Yes.
And that's it. Yeah. And you said what we do with D&D, right?
Like just like your experiences with it.
I've played several times, a handful of campaigns, and I've tried to DM a few sessions unsuccessfully. So that's my history.
Perfect. Okay, so Tracy, you're next up. It's no longer importance. I don't want you to feel bad about this, but you are the next person up.
I'm good. That's fine. I was really looking forward to rolling my dice, so you really took that from me.
I know.
So
there'll be time.
Patrick.
Disappointment around every corner.
Already.
We're sending you up.
Back. So I'm Tracy Ching. I'm an illustrator and portrait artist. So that's my connection to the design world. You may know me from any number of things, from political posters to alternative movie posters, key art, the film industry, yada yada. My experience with Dungeons and Dragons is literally fuck all, except that like my husband played it like a long time ago, which is whose dice I have stolen to use for this session. So yeah, that's me in the nutshell.
I love that when you say that. You say, yada yada yada. I instantly think of you yadaed over the best part. I instantly think about Seinfeld. I mentioned the bisque.
Maybe.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I might.
Here's what I do know. I do know that Tracy said that this is verbatim. I can never draw a portrait of you, Andrew, because you're not important enough.
Yep.
I
You are
heard
not
that.
enough of a celebrity for
I
me
wrote
to
it down.
draw
I
you.
wrote it. I remember that was the exact.
Were we
wording that was
recording
used.
then?
Do I
No,
really need
sure.
to rage quit this series already? just dragging me through the mud, taking my dice rolls away from me, and just lying slander. I'm leaving. I'm just gonna get up and walk away.
You need to
Not
wait
what
and
I
get back
said.
at them. There's
That-
ways. There's
I'm
ways
sure.
to
I
get back at
will.
them soon.
Yeah.
I love it.
I will.
Take note.
I'm
Ray,
literally gonna put it in the notebook.
Good. I'll totally
Revenge.
team up with you. Text me later.
I don't like the way
We're
this is
plotting
trending.
already. Metagaming. I'm Ray, or Ink. I am a producer and content creator, focusing on, shifting the focus this year to action sport brands, mostly in the fighting realm. My life is kind of going that route, and it's amazing. So, I mean, I've been designing, illustrating, animating, all of that forever for companies that I don't really like. So I started picking the ones I do like, and it totally changes the game. Yeah. And D&D, what?
I was just saying, doing work for people that you can tolerate definitely makes things easier.
Yeah, well, and the stuff you love to do. So I got into martial arts and orange belt heading to purple, and those are my clients now, and it's really cool.
That's super
So
fun.
hopefully this year should get really cool. D&D, I've always wanted to play. I felt kind of outside of, I don't know, like, it seems odd to say not cool enough because it wasn't really looked as a cool thing, but and then I got obsessed with Critical Role with my brother, like a lot of people have, and that opened up the world beyond and all the different, like, Shakar and different vampires and all of that. So I love watching, and now I get to play with these dice that have been sitting here for like a year.
Yes.
Talking about Critical Role. So my cousin got familiar with D&D because of our podcast a couple years ago. And then we started a Patreon, and she followed, and her comment was, I figured I had to give you money because you introduced me to Critical Role. And I was like, that's kind of really mean. And she'll probably listen to this, but
That's
I
kind
will.
of really mean.
I'm going to be DMing this game for us. My connection with design, I've been working as a designer for 10 years. Most of that has been freelance, and now I teach graphic design as a professor. And then my experience with D&D is way nerdier than most of you, and goes back probably almost 15 years now, with like tabletop wargaming, Magic the Gathering, playing. When you were saying like not cool enough, like me and my friends were the kids who like had no friends. We were also homeschooled, so it made it worse for us. But we played a lot of D&D, and then I got out of college and I found like adults who did it, and it ended up being like a really cool way to plan time with friends, which is kind of hard to do when you get like into your 30s, where it's like, I don't know, it's just intentional hanging out, which I really dig. And that's what I'm hoping we can do.
I don't think I've hung out with anyone like this since last Creative South.
Yeah. So we started
what 2 years ago? Where are we at now?
I started Dungeons and Designers because I left Jersey, and all my D&D friends, I want to still play with people. And that was like maybe 4 or 5 months before COVID. And like D&D and having that like group to play every couple of weeks with, I think is like a big reason I was like mentally able to stay kind of all right through COVID, because it's just like this touch point where like we were being intentional and playing a game and hanging out. So hopefully we can continue that longer than COVID. We'll see how this goes.
Let's hope it outlives COVID.
Let's like get through COVID. All right. So introductions done. I've got a list here. I sent you guys like a little snippet, but this is going to go into way more detail. So we just introduced each other. Now I would love to talk about the world we're going to play in. Just set this setting. So most of D&D from Wizards of the Coast aspect is in this place called the Forgotten Realms, and that's just like their universe. we're going to play in a setting that we played a little bit back when we were doing the podcast called Lathander's Ring. And the concept of Lathander's Ring is we're going to be starting out on a spaceship or a space station orbiting this planet called Toril. And Toril is the planet that everything on Forgotten Realms is on, right? Like everything D&D is on Toril, their Earth. So when we play, there's going to be a lot of references to Forgotten Realms, another D&D setting called Spelljammer, and then a whole bunch of like original stuff. But if you start hearing terms with like names that sound really cool, I guarantee if you Google it, it came from Wizards of the Coast. So it should be fun. I follow this one D&D creator called Sly Flourish, and he does this kind of thing called the Lazy DM's Guide. And what he says is to introduce a setting, you should have what he calls the 6 truths. So this is going to be 6 facts that kind of introduce you to a lot of the core concepts of this universe and try to get you guys in the mindset of what we're going to be playing in.
I should have brought a pencil.
So for most of you, for the 5 here, I gave you guys access to a document that I've already written all down and given it to you. So everything we covered today will be within that 2 dense of a booklet that I gave you guys. So 6 truths. Lathander's Rings is a space station worn and weathered through the ages. What was once the genesis of space exploration is now an outdated piece of machinery orbiting a dead planet. As a result, even its richest civilians are often seen as poor. So the idea is like you're on the space station that was really amazing like 700 years ago. And now it's kind of just like this relic orbiting a planet that has no value. Tech is now the controlling factor in economic status and class position, whereas gold and riches were once claims to power in years of old, now possessions of tech and credits command attention. As such, tech and trying to obtain it creates an awful lawless realm in which crime runs rampant in search of tech and its control throughout the worlds. So we're kind of taking this idea of just like what happens when everyone has to leave a planet and then survival becomes the main goal.
Are people like, you keep going. I'll save my questions.
No, I mean, it's going to be way better if you just interrupt me now.
What is this?
Okay, good.
What's the scope of this? Like, what's the, when we say space station, like how many people does a space station hold?
Like tens of thousands.
Okay, big.
Like
so
massive.
The Lathander's Ring is a, things I should know because I wrote all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Lathander's Ring is a 12-ring station. So what we're gonna start you guys on is Ring 4, and the way it works is like everything below 7 would be considered kind of the lower class, and then anything above is middle to higher, and 12 being the captain's room, right? Like the end of the station. So in your ring alone, in 4 would be the largest, and it would be like a metropolitan, right? Tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, just within that ring. And then every other ring is a little bit smaller.
But it's not lawless.
No.
Okay.
And this is where we have retreated. Civilization has retreated because the Earth below us, Toril, has become uninhabitable, or we just moved off planet. Like
no, so something happened there where the whole planet was engulfed in flames. People are still trying to figure out what happened. Like Waterdeep and Baldur's Gate would be like Sunder now, right? Like all of these staples that D&D has built and Wizards of the Coast has built, like you could visit, but would all be ash. Even like the seas have dried up, and there's like a lot of questions of why, but this was like their last chance of getting off planet, getting as far away from it as they could to like survive. But that was hundreds of years ago. So now space is being explored by everybody, right? Like you guys are going to start on the space station, but there are people traveling all through the planets of this universe and the next one.
No, Mark.
We're like Star Wars. Like we can go wherever. Yeah, okay.
No one has gotten a pencil, Mark. I want to be clear. Lauren wants to know, are there other space stations?
Yes.
Are they like close?
No, but you could get to it with like a spaceship, right?
Like relationally, or just like
romantically?
Okay. Is there a sister station?
Platonically.
Yeah.
Are we romantically connected with our sister station? Is what I need to know.
No.
Okay, good.
This is not.
I see a pencil. I'm gonna get it, but you keep talking. I can hear you.
Okay. So there's a concept in D&D called the Weave. The Weave is kind of what controls all of the magic. So like when sorcerers or wizards cast their magic, they're tapping into this flow of magic called the Weave. You got 2 pencils. The Weave has grown weak. The Weave has grown weak, and magic tends to be much more difficult to control. Often spellcasters rely on attuned hyperspheres that they believe help enhance the use of the Wave. Have the gods abandoned the material plane? Has the weave been damaged? Is what happened to Toro the cause of the instability? So if you guys choose to play a class that is mostly magic based, there's like things to know. First, a lot of people don't trust you or want to be around you because your magic is now unstable, right? And if you're trying to cast magic on a ship that there's like millimeters of steel or metal protecting you from the vacuum of space, unstable magic is like extremely dangerous, right? So most magic is outlawed on stations. On planets, you'll find magic users because it's like a safer atmosphere. But even with that, like most religion and gods have been outlawed because of their connection to the magic realm in Arcane.
Got it.
That was actually the next truth. The gods in Arcana have both been abandoned by most. After none of the deities showed up to save Toro, the majority turned away. What was that?
I'm up to 3 now. Yeah, for sure.
No, you went from under-prepared to over-prepared in like 10 seconds.
Can you say that last part again?
Sure.
I just realized I don't have paper. But I think it's on the bookshelf behind me, so you keep talking. I'm going to fish for this.
What to expect.
Oh, yeah. So, Andrew, the gods in Arcana have both been abandoned by most. After none of the deities showed up to save Toro, the majority turned away. This goes as far as outlawing it in many regions.
Gotcha. Okay.
Next point. There's only 2 more, and then loads of questions if you got them.
Okay.
Rivaling gangs travel from planet to planet and are normally unwelcome in civilized stations. These gangs are the last remnants of the old gods' followers, and in the cold depths of space, even those who followed the most lawful gods now rely on morally gray ways of surviving. So in reaction to being outlawed, like all of the followers of gods, like Helm and all these others, Lolth, have like retreated to like this gang lifestyle where they're self-reliant and traveling through space and doing what they want. Last little fact, for those not living in a space station or on a planet, a home is often a personal spacecraft. So you'll find stations, you'll find planets. There's people who live on like little spaceships or medium-sized spaceships. There's a lot of variety in that. But I think Ray said it earlier. You can definitely think of like Star Trek, Star Wars. I think even like influences from Dune. Like there's a whole bunch. Like nothing I'm doing is real original. It's just kind of mashing up things I love.
I mean, that's like what every single sci-fi at this point. Yeah, it's just.
I believe there's a Bible verse that says there's nothing new under the sun, right, Patrick?
I don't think there's a sun in this galaxy.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
2 suns. There's nothing new under the 2 suns.
There we go.
I do have a question. Like
Please.
when you say that people live on like spacecrafts, I'm picturing like houseboats, like that kind of thing.
Pontoons.
Like you can either live on the the station, or you can live in your own little vessel.
Yeah, like
traveling,
like the Winnebago and Spaceballs.
Okay, but do they
yeah,
live?
He like Guardians of the Galaxy. Like he's always in his spaceship. He's just
Yeah, but are they docked? Are they docked in?
So they would have
in
to.
Lathander's ring.
They could dock in Lathander's ring. They could dock in another station or land on a planet, right? Like these little spaceships, but they're going to have to for resources, right? Like they're not going to be able to grow their own food or all that stuff because it's just like a temporary thing. But there are people who, like, just because of self-reliance and safety, have now like excluded themselves in these space stations.
Do they?
Or spaceships?
Do children, or does the civilization that lives on, is it Lathander's ring or Lathander's ring?
Lathander's ring
with an L.
Yeah.
Okay.
And to call back to like D&D, like Lathander was one of the gods, and he's like the god of exploration. So the space station was named after him when religion was a big thing.
So when for people who live on the space station and maybe don't have external means of travel, well, first of all, does that exist? Are there people who don't have? Okay.
Most people on 4 or lower, rings 4 or lower, will never be able to leave Lathander's ring.
Okay. So children who are good are children. So children are born and can live their whole lives.
Yeah.
In this. Okay. All right.
In fact, like you could imagine like none of the original people who were on Lathander's ring who started it would still be alive today.
So this is like Snowpiercer.
Yeah. In the
similar,
train,
yeah.
But yeah. Or Wall-E.
Or Wall-E. Right. Okay.
Oh, Wall-E's a good one. I gotta write that down. I gotta watch that again.
I do have a question about spacecrafts.
Sure.
So I saw that they only go down to like a limited crew. But there's no like single man spacecrafts.
So there would be. I probably just didn't add it to the book yet.
Okay, cool. I didn't know if there was.
Yeah, no. There's a couple like classes.
I have a plan, so I'm seeing if it fits.
Whoa.
already has a plan. So I like,
I mean,
and kind of just like trying to picture it because we were talking
Yeah.
all these things and like, wait, are none of you picturing Halo, where it's literally like this like ring or like around the planet? Is that when we say space station, we're not thinking Wally like a brick in space,
No.
right? It's actually a ring around the planet, right? And that's why
Yeah.
it's called his ring.
No, it's like a
Or
space
what is
station,
it?
and the rings are around the space station core.
Helpful.
And then it's floating in
Thank you.
space, right?
Yeah. So
Gotcha.
there's like a shaft with 12 rings branching off of it.
Helpful. Thank you.
And the planet's like way over there as a rock at this point.
Okay, I was picturing how
Uninhabitable.
you were. I was picturing how you were picturing it, Tracy. Like it was circled around, almost like a ring of Saturn, and the planet was below it in the center of it.
Yes, Ray is for sure many steps ahead of all of us. I can guarantee you
I
that.
read the homework,
I
guys,
can
last
guarantee
night.
Right.
that.
So
What are you doing?
for you guys, and
There's a drawing.
and I did say none of you have to read this thing before today. So
That's
for
all
you
I
who
caught.
didn't,
That's the
I was
only thing I read.
I was
right.
listening to Will when he said that.
right. So Ray is like the student who's like trying really hard in class. So good job, Ray. For the rest of you, there is an illustration on chapter 7 that just explains Lathander's ring in more detail and shows you what it looks like.
But Tracy brings up a good point. Do these rings have like foliage and water and things like that, or is it just like steel and whatever?
Right. So ring 4, what you're on, would have no foliage. It would just be pure metal.
This place
Rings
sucks.
and the higher rings, like there is one ring that is just for agriculture, and then there's one ring that's used for travelers to visit, and like that one has foliage, right? Like it's their fancy ring, because outsiders
Tourism.
come. Yeah,
Tourism.
agriculture goes where the money is.
Okay. Wait, by the way, I'm assuming. Well, maybe I should assume this. We've all been on the ring for some time, or like in the space station for some time?
Yeah, so I think we're gonna do, and we can talk about this more when we do like character creation. I think one of the restrictions I'm hoping we can put in is just like all of you are born on ring 4. So we're all going to start on ring 4. What that allows you guys to do is have a reason to want to advance, right? If you started on a higher ring, you could just chill. A lot of D&D has to come because something has to come and push you out of your comfort zone, right? And I think ring 4 is just a fun place to start that you have aspirations of higher rings or off station.
Yeah. Okay. What like race class whatever are the like the captain people, the generals, or who are the ring 12 people? What's their makeup?
Let me see.
Demographics. Getting into demographics.
Yes.
So I mean, so just demographic wise, the whole station was built by the dwarves, elves, and humans for the most part. Like those were the 3 that came together. Others were able to join, but those were the 3 who spearheaded it. I don't think you guys would know who the captain is, right?
He doesn't have like posters on the walls everywhere?
Yeah,
Each
he's
ring,
that supreme leader.
each ring has their own governor. It's like level 4 has a governor who's this dwarf. Ring 7 would have their own, and they would answer to the captain themselves.
So it's
Can
like
I ask-
asking if I know the governor of Idaho. I got no idea.
No idea.
Yeah.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yeah.
Tracy, did you just say he's the ringleader?
No.
You
But I
should
should
take
have.
credit for that, though. You should take
That's
credit
good.
for that.
Yeah.
I thought about it for a bit. I was like, nope, this is recorded. They're gonna know for sure.
Andrew went
Go
for
to the
it.
go to the playback.
This is recorded. Mhm.
Yeah, and I think
No,
the
I
way
get
that
it.
I think of it is like the governors are the political heads of what's going on, but the captains are keeping the actual thing like moving and working and
Running.
not blowing up in
Right.
space.
Heads
Which
of
we
state
don't
versus,
need on
practical
Earth, but
yeah.
yeah. So it's
Well, and
like
that's where
they're
I
kind of the
kind
ghost
of-
in the machine.
And that's where I kind of like some clarification, mostly because like I did read the like certain levels of the chapters. I didn't get to 7. I got
Well,
to like
so
3, and
She was
so what
pretending
I-
like she's as bad as Andrew and Patrick, but really.
No, I told you we're the worst. Go
Yeah,
ahead,
I think we've
Tracy.
established that.
Yeah. You guys are me if I didn't have to
Also-
plan this.
Girl
if
power.
you're new at this, so I did notice that like there are certain, when talking about how magic's being treated on the stations, like it was mentioned in the brief we received, that like elves hold higher positions, but I'm kind of interested in how that works, given
Yeah.
that like
It's-
magic's unstable. They're one of the originals. They're probably not viewed very kindly. So how does that work where they're holding those positions? Like, is there a position I'm not aware of where that's like insulated
No, but
from, or what?
they'd be a really good example of like the races giving up their deities or deities to do this. So like most of these elves will have abandoned that. The only like counter to that would be the dark elves or the drow who worship Loth. Like if in D&D lore, like there are no drows without Loth. Like they are one and the same. Like they're so they would never give up their god. But all these other elves, and especially because elves as a race in D&D are very full of themselves, right? Like it's a very pious. They'll be the first ones to be like, if we can get off planet, we don't even need help. Does that make sense?
It does. I'm just kind of interested because again, coming from this is like no background whatsoever with like any of this information.
Yeah, keep going with questions.
And so the idea that, you know, as far as I've understood, they are magical creatures, and obviously magic is unstable and or rare. Upon giving up their gods, do they therefore give up their magic? And then how does their immortality tie to that? How does that actually roll out in this specific space?
That's a good question. So the way I've interpreted D&D, at least since edition 3, elves in themselves wouldn't be particularly magical themselves. Other than like dwarves or humans, like everything in D&D could be magical. What they do have traditionally is a better connection with the weave and a better understanding of arcane use. And a lot of that comes down to because elves just live longer, they can study something for a longer period of time. So where humans have a shorter life, a lot of their traits in D&D have to do with needing to be resilient quick and like kind of the adapting, where elves are more about being studied, which is why they have this connection with like arcane studies. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And so is there therefore like their immortality or like it's really linked to just like as the race they just live longer, and anything related to magic is really divorced from like if they choose to engage with those activities.
Right. That's how I've always interpreted it and how we're going to interpret it. So
see, you're asking very good questions.
Super good.
Saying that you are new to this, so good job.
So I put these like some of these like races in, and I didn't put all the races in the book. I put the ones that I'm most familiar with. But if we're talking about like Aasimar, they're like these angel race. They are magic, right? There's no difference. Tieflings who have like demon blood in them would probably also be at least partially magic. Dragonborn potentially, because dragons are magical creatures, right? So there are things where your head is totally right for the setting we're making, where there are races that you can't divorce from magic, like the core, like elf, dwarf, human, halfling, gnome. Those you could, because they're just kind of different aptitudes of magic without being magic creatures.
Gotcha. That's super helpful. And now for part 2,
please.
How much is the black market and or like backdoor studies of arcane on these stations where like people learn it, but they kind of keep it on the DL? Like there's like, oh yeah, we gave that up hundreds of years ago, but
we're gonna have
low-key,
fun.
Low-key,
because I know we're all like magicking the background.
Okay.
Are there cabals and cults?
It's a good question. So like I brought up earlier, the Lolth gang would be seated places, even though like they are not welcome and they're unlawful everywhere. You would be able to find them in the station in different spots, and they're never going to do anything without magic, right? But I would say it's going to be very hard, and this will be convenient for you guys because we're starting at level 1. It would be extraordinarily hard to advance your abilities well on a station like this. Both because of the risks, what it's like to be using magic, but also if anyone ever caught wind, you'd be like thrown off.
I feel
so go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just watching you and I and our faces, and you can tell we're about to get into some shit. So we're like, magic, and where can we use this, and how much can we make, and
well, because the weave is weakened, right? So even if you were to study, the practice is unstable, so you could even control it. Let's pretend that you could. So it would really be like you might have the knowledge, but the practice therefore might not exist, essentially.
Or you have to get off space station to practice it, like
safely.
A little safe, yeah.
So what I will say is, there's a class in D&D called the Wild Magic Sorcerer, and the idea of Wild Magic Sorcerer is that every time you cast a spell, something crazy could happen. We're kind of adapting that and building off that. So like anyone who does magic has this effect and has to like roll on a table to see if something happens. So you could just get super lucky and just use magic all the time and be like, my weave connection is great. And then another time could just like ruin everything.
I want to see if we can place bets in the chat which one of us is going to blow the space station up.
Blow a hole in the
It'll be
ring.
Patrick. It'll be Patrick. We don't even have to vote. It's gonna be Patrick.
The direction we're headed in for sure.
But I would also say, and this is like, we're probably way off topic, but this is great. There's plenty of classes you can play that don't use magic. And there's another one called the Artificer. And the idea is like, they've left magic and started building things to do it themselves. So like instead of casting fireball through the weave, they're using like guns now that cast fireball. So if you're like, man, I really want to play with magic, but I don't want to be this outcast, there's options for that.
Are they like they're like an engineer, like
Yeah,
a
like
magic person who has turned engineer and has figured out how to. Okay.
It's
Yeah.
steampunk.
Yes.
Yeah.
What you're
Yes.
describing is steampunk.
Yes. Big goggles on everything.
Noted.
Yes.
Pretty much all the characters.
I'm getting
in
arcane vibes now.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah.
That feels.
Oh,
just like
chaos is
that.
happening.
Chaos. Here we go.
You picked the chaos group here.
Okay.
Oh yeah, you did.
What is
I
it?
came in ready for chaos, so.
How difficult
F
is
bombs
it
and chaos.
to travel from one wing to another, from one ring to another?
It's a great question.
Hunger
So
I
Games
could just
style.
feel it
Being-
happening.
being on wing, now I said it. Ooh, you got me good, Patrick. Being on ring 4, you would have access to all the rings below and ring 6, which is that's
Okay.
the terminal. That's like anyone on a ring has access to the rings below. Everybody on the station except for ring 1 would have access to ring 6.
Gotcha.
Does that make
Okay.
sense? So like everyone, because it's a technology advance, everyone will have ID cards on them that gain you access to buildings, to the elevator system, to other rights that you like. If you go to ring 6 where everyone's hanging out, like you still won't have access to everything because you guys are from ring 4.
You get like ring 4 food court passes,
Exactly. Right.
but you can't get into the cool shit.
I do want you to know
Food
that
shoot. This is
for the-
definitely like the trade thing. It's like, yup, you get a block of sustenance.
Yeah, exactly.
now I'm just thinking about the Snowpiercer block.
Yeah.
I hate those so
Or
much.
like Hunger Games, like yeah.
For the question, who will blow up the space station first? Ray, you came in first.
Oh, was there a
Yes, it
poll?
was Ray.
It was
Everyone
a poll.
said
Yeah,
Ray.
yeah, for sure.
Do you have Nightbot working now that we have affiliate?
Things work now. Yes.
This is awesome.
I still have
Let's
this
Things
pencil.
work now.
I'm so happy for you.
Also,
Okay.
pins and swords or pins and words.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough.
Pins and words.
Yeah, I mean, it could be anything. It says good day, Ray. And then good day,
Day.
guys. So it kind of seems like he's here for Ray. Or they are here
does-
for Ray.
It does seem like they are here for Ray, but that's
That's
okay.
fine. That's fine.
Yeah, because
And
they
get
want
my
to
nerd
see
on
you
as well.
blow shit up.
I'm already terrified to be in this group. I don't know that I'd hang out with these people. Just kidding.
Are there any other thoughts or questions or rogue comments that you guys have?
I do want to say this. So before y'all jumped on, Tracy and I jumped on the call first today. And I asked Tracy.
Again, being
And talked
responsible.
about us.
No, it's fine. This wasn't recorded. But I asked Tracy, because Tracy, this is your first time playing, and I asked her about like any preconceived ideas and what she's looking forward to and all that kind of stuff. And one of the things that you said is that you weren't sure how you'd respond if like everyone was bloodthirsty. You made the comment that like you weren't going to necessarily be super aggressive. I do want you to know that's not the vibes I'm getting now. I fully expected you're just going to blow shit up.
Yeah.
I feel like you have a very selective memory, Patrick, given the slander that you aimed at me earlier. But then also, I led that conversation with that I intend to be a pain in the ass and fuck some shit up and have a good time. So I think
We've
you're
never
confusing
met before.
aggression with chaos. Again, you're really confusing the vibe, but we'll get on the same
We'll
page.
see.
Don't you worry
We'll
about
see.
that.
What I will say, with everyone's opinion being right here, maybe.
So diplomatic.
There is. I'm trying.
Modern
There-
DMs.
There is an amount of law being held on each ring, right? Each ring has their own sets of laws. There was this concept, and there is this concept that anyone who enters the ring signs what we call the covenant, which is like, I agree to these set of laws. And it's their way of holding kind of order on the ship. So you could be rogue as much as you want, but like there could be repercussions, just like real life.
But the
Can't go to the
lower
post
you
office
get,
and gank somebody.
the lower you get, though, the more lawless it is, if I remember the reading correctly.
You would remember 100% correctly.
Yes, I
Because
remember
they've
that
kind of
correctly from
given
the
up
reading.
on the like lower ones.
I do want to bump up against that though, because anything I've known about elite and hierarchy is you are more lawless the more money you have and the more power you have. So I kind of want to like bump that a bit. Is that is actually true, or is it just the conception of the poor, the lower rings? Is that what we feel about them?
Let's
that they are
get
lesser
political.
and more lawless.
Political.
What I would say to Ray's point with the lawlessness, because the lower rings can't ever touch the higher rings, the lawlessness comes purely from them not caring about them anymore. Right? It was just like, let them do whatever they want. They can't affect us anyways.
Some of them set their own stuff up.
Was that?
Some of them like set their own stuff up because they're basically like left alone. So like, okay,
Right.
we'll figure this out then.
Like the Amish.
Yes. I would just say, yeah, with less God,
Mm-hmm.
more dentists.
Way less God.
More
Yeah.
dentist. I can say that because they'll never hear this.
Wasn't there a show called The Lawless Amish? Mark Quinn?
The lawless Amish.
That sounds
That
like a
might-
Learning
That
Channel
might be
special.
mixing two shows together. Yeah.
The lawless
Things are
Amish, the
happening.
bounty hunter. Is that what you're talking about?
Uh,
Dog, the lawless Amish.
by
It's
the
a
way,
new doc on
thanks,
Netflix.
Hey Pretty Girl 21 for the sub. I know that's Becca. I hate saying the name because I feel like a creep every time I say it. I just want you to
Yeah,
know
but
that.
it docs
I was like,
people.
geez, man.
Patrick.
Hey Pretty Girl. That's what I feel like every time I say that name. But thanks for the 1 month sub. All right,
Hey,
sorry.
Becca and I are the only ones with little ones by our names.
I know. We all got to learn how to
You all
toggle
can
that
be.
stuff.
You all can become one with us as well. Just sub to the page, and if you have Amazon Prime, it's free.
That's what I
Just
did.
Do it.
Yeah.
And it made my life happier.
Aw. All right, Will, what's next?
Okay, so the one thing, I think that's going to be the last bit we talk about, kind of the setting and the station. What I really want to make sure is like, if you're starting to feel overwhelmed, don't. Every episode, like if something comes up, we will explain what's happening, right? Like I'm not expecting us to, in 2 weeks, for you guys to be like, I know the political structure of Ring 4, right? Like if that comes up into play and is important, it will be explained again, right? And I felt bad. I gave you guys this document that I've been writing for the better part of like a year and a half. And I gave it to you guys this past week. And I was just like, after I sent it, I felt really bad because I know as someone like coming into something new, especially if you haven't played D&D before and you look at it and there are 7 chapters, it's like, that can be anxiety ridden, right? So what I want you guys to understand is like, there's no reason to memorize any of this. I don't even expect you guys to know all the rules to D&D, right? We're just going to have fun.
Well, that's good.
Again, like this is what I want. I'm hoping this becomes, it's more of just like friends at a table playing a game and telling a story together.
Actually, you're going to be quizzed on this, Andrew?
Yeah.
Just you.
Yeah.
I couldn't even pass a quiz on this, so. And I wrote it.
Yes, Mark,
All right.
that is true. Will spent a year and a half on this, and only Ray and Tracy read it.
Hey, I want you to know that while you were talking, I've read at least a chapter and a half.
There you go.
It's like the
Um,
pencil thing.
Yeah, I didn't hear a word you said, but I read a chapter and a half.
I
don't know. I think you've
appreciate
made a
that.
critical error. You made a critical error in giving me all this information because I'm going to find a way to like.
There's
use
some
it,
that are
so-
locked. I did notice. I was like, ooh, what's this? And it's like, you're locked out. And I was like,
Because I
Oh,
need notes for me
interesting.
that you guys don't need. It would ruin it. And
Mhm.
I thought I removed all those links, so you found a couple I missed.
yeah, I did.
Can I ask a question about specific race?
Yeah.
Tieflings.
They're the ones that have like the demon blood in them.
Yeah,
Okay.
dope. You
But-
get horns.
Besides having demon blood in them,
Mhm.
do they literally
Or devil blood?
like they
Ooh, might be
literally
devil
have
blood.
they literally have flames on them, like they are flaming people?
Right. No, so
No.
no, the Genasi have flames, but the tieflings would have red or blue or purple skin,
Okay.
horns, potentially wings. Like
Tail.
they would be extremely hard to hide their magic attachment, right? The Asimar or Asimar, however you pronounce that, the angel folks could potentially hide more of their like race traits easier than the tieflings.
Okay.
They're
I've
more
only ever
humanoid.
played as a human or as a halfling, and I'm ready to try something different. So
Lion.
So I've been playing D&D a long time. So like my serious characters have stopped existing. Like every character I just make now is like for fun. But everyone I play with, I'll like sit at a table and they'll be like, "What are you?" It'll be like the most magical creatures available in D&D, and I'll just be like, "Human barbarian." I'm just gonna come to like slice everything.
Is that a bad answer?
No, man, that's exciting.
I need to
But
change
Do
that.
it.
Andrew, if that
Yeah,
is,
it
if,
was-
Andrew, if that's been your thing, like where you're just like human, then this is a really good opportunity to be like, there are a ton of races. I didn't include them all, so if you see an external race, there's also been like 4 books put out since I started writing this because Hasbro now owns D&D and they're just raking in money.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So-
they're not gonna
yeah,
let that
they
pass
worked
up.
they worked the Power Rangers into it now.
They will for
All
sure.
of their properties are
Andrew's
now part
the
of
Red
the-
Ranger. He's just gonna come in and like be a ranger now.
I'm
Be like the
Jason, the
Teenage
Red Ranger,
Mutant-
the OG Red Ranger. I'm gonna play
Exactly.
as Jason.
There are ways with the engineering race you could probably make that happen.
yeah.
So-
Totally.
Like, just do the like steampunk version of a Power Ranger. Boom, done.
Oh my gosh, there you go.
D&D has got into this mode of like winking in their books, and there is a large wink in the book for Artificer that's like you can be Iron Man.
Yeah. That
So
makes
yes,
sense.
there's definitely those concepts. You could be any of those type of things.
Iron Male, that's what they call him.
I do want to
Iron-
give you props,
Iron Man.
Will. I thought it was really cool. Like in our little PDF we got, it showed the races, but like you did a great job writing out what their position is in this new world because it is in
Oh, thank
space.
you.
So like not a lot
Yeah.
of things came up the same way, or like the dwarves that made sense that they're the ones physically working on the space stations. So I
Thank
thought
you.
that was really cool.
I do
appreciate
agree with that. I read through all of the races while we were talking, as I've been trying to think about who I want to be, and I thought you've done a good job of communicating how they exist in relation to this world.
Yeah, because we can Google what they are, but like we won't know how you see them playing into your world. So
Right. And
Yeah.
so first off, thank you. Also, with that, if you're like, man, I really want to play this character, but I don't want to have these things put on me, like just tell me, we'll figure it out, right? Like
Okay.
there's a lot of this
like
where-
armor.
There's a lot of like if I was to play like my D&D these days, it would be much more like classical D&D where you're going to die the first game almost every time, and there's like this elves traditionally are very alien, so they just don't get along with everyone else. Like those are the type of stories I like. That's not what we do D&D for anymore. So like if there's something in here that I wrote like that feels that way where it's like this is just going to be like too much angst for me in this race, just tell me and we'll just like turn it back a little bit. This is an editable Notion document, so we can just make changes anytime we
it's
want.
a Wikipedia page. All right, let's
I
go.
heard that as
Edible.
This is
It
edible.
can be eaten.
Again, always goes back to food.
Eat this.
Every
Don't eat the
time.
dice.
Yeah. Eat this in the next 30 seconds, or it will self-destruct.
Okay, because of time, I want to keep going. So that's the story for all that stuff. I just want to talk about gameplay a little bit. So there's a concept of linear storytelling and railroading. Because this is a group playing around here, we also have an audience. There will probably be a little bit more railroading than necessary, right? Like just to keep the story going, we can't do 2 hours where it's just like, we don't know what to
Shopping.
do. And I actually found out, especially for those who are new to D&D, and I did this in our last podcast where it's just like, hey, you're on this new planet. What do you want to do? And that pressure for new players was like crippling.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time I'm going to seed things. I want you guys to feel free to like go off course whenever you want, right? This is D&D. The difference between this and a video game is that anything is possible, right? Like we don't have to play by a code base. But I will try to like seed things and get us to move in a certain direction just so that if we do become stale or like you guys don't know what to do, there's something to grab onto.
Cool.
I play D&D rules light, fun, heavy. So a lot of time we'll be like, can I do this? And I'm just going to say, yep. I try to avoid rules a lot of the time when it's just like not necessary because I'd rather us just like talk about things and storytell it rather than playing math. Voices aren't expected, but welcome.
Oh, thank God.
I don't do voices anymore because all my voices just came off really racist. So it was just like, I'm gonna be the Russian bad guy,
Let's
or
wait
I
like,
see what you're saying. I see
or
what
the
you're
dumb
saying.
Southerner. Like,
let's just wait until the stream ends, and then can I hear just a couple?
but if you
Off
want to,
camera.
if you want to bring in a voice, like no one's gonna make jokes, go for it. Just don't expect it from me.
Okay.
Also,
All right, I'll keep that in mind. I will.
Okay, well,
I
Andrew's no
will
longer in our
leave,
group. He's now
Andrew.
been canceled.
Andrew, I will leave.
I will record it.
With
My
that,
apologies.
always speaking in first person isn't
Soundbite.
necessary, but welcome as well. If
Okay.
you have like an interaction with the NPC and you don't want to be the voice of your character, but you'd rather just say like, my character does this, that's totally fine as well. Like, we're going to be really loose about like that format, and I'm not going to get on your case if you don't be first person. You'll see that a lot with me, where like, especially if I'm tired, I'll start a sentence in first person and end it just explaining what I'm doing. Because I just don't have the energy to fake it anymore. So
We've all
really,
been there. We've all been there, Will.
so really, just like whatever playstyle you guys bring to the table, we're going to work with, and it's totally cool.
Okay.
This is the part that I want you guys to be real vocal about, because it's my topics could include section. So with everything you've heard about so far, there's going to be topics of religion, politics, culture, tech obsession, a lot of things that I feel about like modern day, things that I think are going forward. Are there anything in that you're like, I really don't want to touch these subjects?
Of what you just said?
Yeah.
Nothing of what you just said.
With that, I'm going to add, if we ever touch something that could be sensitive, I'm never going to try to go to grotesque, right? If this happened in our first campaign for Dungeons and Designers, our party played as goblins, and the idea was
Pretty
from
brutal.
like, it was playing from like the Holocaust, where like goblins were being mistreated by everyone else. So there was a lot of topics of like slavery and encampments. But anytime it got to a point where it could have gotten disgusting, it was just like, there is an encampment here, right? And you just imagine what it is yourselves. So with that, like these topics could come up, like drug use and all of that, but we're just going to kind of stop it and let you guys imagine it, because I can't do it justice, right? There's no way I could explain a Holocaust setting that'd be worth explaining. So just talking about it being like, there's a slave encampment in front of you, you do with that what you want. So is there any other thing, like maybe that I didn't mention, that you're like, man, I really hope we don't touch this stuff?
I would think anything that would deal with like childhood abuse stuff, like anything
Perfect.
of, yeah, I would maybe stay clear. I mean, I can definitely work around it if it's a critical part of the story, but
Well, we
So
could probably do like the typical Hollywood, right? Like you like basically kids aren't involved in violence or aren't involved in, like I think
Yeah.
that's pretty typical. So
Yeah.
like would it be fair to say like as long as it's in bounds for like an R-rated film, then it's okay?
Cool. As for the child abuse thing, what I would say is, hey, party, that's going to be on you guys more than anyone, because every
Right.
character I ever get is just like, my parents died, I've been abused since ever, I'm angsty now.
Yeah,
It's
don't
just
throw
like,
kids off ledges and we'll be fine.
I mean, there's no gravity, so like you might be okay.
We're great.
hey, throw as many kids as you want. That's what I'm hearing.
They'll
so
be
there's-
having fun.
This took a turn.
There's like one house rule I enjoy, and I actually stole this from Deborah Ann Wool, who was
She's awesome.
She's like the blonde secretary in Daredevil, I think.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But she also is really into D&D, and
She's a badass.
Yeah, she's great. She DM'd a game called Relics and Rarities, and this is the first time I saw this. Anytime you guys do like a perception or insight roll, I'm gonna roll it for you. And the reason I want to do that is like, if you're like, hey, I want to look around, are there secret doors? And then you roll a 4 and I go, no. In the back of your head, you're like, well, what would have happened if I rolled a 20? Now, if you're like, hey, are there secret doors? And I roll it behind you and I just say, no, you don't know what dice roll you got. You
That's
could have
cool.
gotten a 20.
That's really cool.
That's the only die roll I'm going to do, because we're playing online. All of our
Say
die.
that again. I missed how you broke that down.
So let's say you're looking for traps on a trail.
Yes.
And you roll a 3 or a 4, and I'm like, no, man, there's no traps. And then you are like, well, do I have to be careful because I didn't roll a 20? If I roll the die for you and you're like, are there any traps? And I roll it and I have your scores, I'm just like, no, there's no traps. You have no idea what I rolled. It could have been a 20. And that should hopefully encourage you just to go forward. as
It-
this is
and
the
fall
fact.
into the trap.
Yeah.
To
And
put- yeah.
it prevents settings where I guess other members in the party would then want to roll to try to get a better roll or something like that.
Right.
Like that weirdness. Yeah.
And the
I like that. That's
real life
good.
metaphor I apply it to. So like strength checks. You guys are going to roll your own strength checks because in reality, if you're trying to do a chin up and you can't anymore, you know that's not a random chance. You're just not
I don't need to
strong
roll
enough.
for that. I already know that. One.
Right. But the other side of that,
Critical
if you're
fail.
if you're like a kid looking in a refrigerator for ketchup and you don't see it, like is it behind something or not, right? And if you rolled a 4, you like maybe it's behind the milk. So this just takes away all that guessing, and we're just gonna like try to play it as straight as we can. You guys are gonna roll all your dice in private because we don't have dice cams because that's crazy. But so just like be as honest as you can. I know the pressure of like after you've rolled your 4th fail, really wanting a win. I would just say like allow the fails to keep happening, right? It's part of the story. I've had days teaching where every class is a fail. So like it happens some days.
It always makes the story better too. I mean, it's cool.
Okay. So like that's like literally the only house rule I usually do. There'll probably be other ones that come up where it's more of just like I'm taking out this part of gameplay because it just feels too heavy for online. Other than that, the one thing I didn't mention. So we're gonna try to do all of our game without maps except for combat.
Okay.
So if you guys are walking around, I'm gonna explain things. I might give you visuals, but we're not gonna like share screens for anything. When we do combat, there's a website called owlbear.rodeo. And what it is, it's just like a really, really stripped down, unbloated way of like me putting in maps and you guys all seeing it and moving your characters around.
Cool.
We might play that. If it doesn't work, we'll try something else because sometimes the website can be a little finicky. I've probably 80% of my combat I've run has just been without maps. So what that removes is in D&D, there's an idea of like you can only move a certain distance. That when we play without maps, we just get rid of that. And it's just like, hey, am I close enough to go get that goblin? And it's like, sure. And it becomes way more hand wavy.
Yeah.
So we'll try maps. We'll see. I
You
know
need
it's like
Figma too. Figma is a good one for that.
so Figma, I've got
We've
maps.
actually started to do that in Figma.
I've got maps in Figma. If you can teach me how to use Fog of War so I don't show the whole map at once, that'd be awesome because I haven't figured it out.
Yeah, we could rig up Figma.
All right, let's do that because I'm not a
I'll help.
Figma genius yet. So those are like the big things. The only reason I want to try to use a map is for like the people who are new. It's just easier to see something. And this game is like, while we're playing, you're going to be like, I don't know how to picture this anymore.
Yeah.
A lot. And I want you guys to feel comfortable, be like, hey, what's the room like right now? And we'll just explain it again, right? Like that's totally fine. This is, again, we're just playing around a table. But I think it could be fun. I gave Patrick another frustrating frame setup for our stream so that we can put a map in. So like this is being planned. We'll just see how it works out and we'll play it by ear most times.
Yes.
Yes.
It just reminds me what a mess we have right now that I have to solve before the next time we sit down.
So just,
But it's
I mean, fourth wall break, if you're comfortable, do you have a different Windows share for every single person? Because that's how I had to do mine.
Okay. Mostly.
Yeah.
You and Ray are on the same one, but I have a different one
Bottom
for
row?
Tracy and Andrew, and then mine is obviously separate. The problem is I just realized if someone was to leave Whereby right now,
All
it
the
would
moves.
just fuck everything. Yeah. So I'm gonna solve that problem. So next time,
I'm gonna be so
gonna do
impressed
good.
if you can figure out how to solve that. In Discord, we had a rule: once cameras are on, you just had to keep them on, because I wasn't doing any of
no
that.
matter what happens, no, it's solvable. I will solve it.
I'm so excited. I want to hear. Okay, so is there any questions about the world, what to expect when we play, or how we're gonna play?
As a new player, I do. Also,
Please.
as to you as like the DM as well, because I know that there are some who are vicious out there and some who aren't. The idea of like death, right? Characters dying. Is there a safety net where like you're gonna try to not kill us, or are we just gonna die and then like do I need to like GTFO or do I need to create a new person? All of a sudden I'm a brand new character in the series. How are you hoping to handle
So
the idea of like
That's a really good
permadeath?
question.
Will said
Right.
you're off the show the first time you die,
Yeah.
and
That's
Will
fine. I'll
has
just go eat food.
Will has no mercy.
So D&D 5th edition is much different than D&D past. If you hit 0 life points or health points in D&D, you go unconscious, and then you have like turns to see if you can roll yourself alive.
Saving throw.
There's also a thing called a medical check, where if like your buddy goes unconscious, you can stabilize them so they don't die. So if you guys play the game right, it'll be pretty hard. Like unless you all die at once, it's really hard for one player to die.
Which happens.
Well,
I wouldn't put it past.
And on top of that, level 1 and 2 is the squishiest.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna die in this campaign, it'd be within those first 2 levels. My goal with you guys is probably not to kill you, right? I don't
probably
play.
not.
I don't. So
we'll go back.
For the stream isn't great.
So I don't play DM versus players because that's just not fun for anyone. I think we all want this story to be a success together, and we want to build it together. So I'm not going to try to kill you. If something does happen and you die, we might have a conversation of like, hey, here's your options.
There's ways.
We could try to resurrect you, or you could roll a new character.
So, but you still follow the if you take damage that's equal to 20% of your HP, it does kill you.
We don't do that.
Oh, okay.
No, and we don't.
If you get hit when you're down, though, like if you're out and you get hit,
you get
then that can insta kill you.
Oh, what I will say is,
or give you a death.
I don't ever have my monsters attack downed players.
Oh, okay.
It just doesn't make sense.
That's usually where it gets you.
Right. Like if I hit you and you're going unconscious and your buddy's over there still swinging his axe around, like I'm not going to like take the time to attack the thing that is no threat.
Yeah,
right.
Very smart.
Yeah.
Right.
Because honestly, that's the worst. That's when it hits you because you fail death saving throws automatically.
That thought pattern is DM versus player, where the DM's like, I hit you, I end you, moving on. Where like a real monster wouldn't I don't think would do that when there's another threat.
All of the monsters I've met have never done that.
Yes, Mark, play dead. You're exactly right.
I will say, Tracy, since you've not played before, in another campaign that we were playing, level 1, one of our players literally slipped on gravel and went unconscious. So when he says that levels 1 and 2 are squishy, he's not being facetious.
And
there's also races that you bounce back up.
Yeah.
At least one.
And that's truly helpful because like in my head I'm just like, okay, so like what happens if like somebody magics something, we blow up our ship and we're all dead? How dead are we? And or like did we not die on camera type dead? Or so just trying to like wrap my head around
to black the whole show, just like
the general
offline
peril that we'll be in at any given time. So yeah, that was clear. Thanks.
Things that are in my control, I'm not gonna try to kill you. But if you're like casting magic and you blow a hole through your ship and you all die, like I'd be like, let's start over.
You're a dumbass.
Like there's not much I could do for like your own consequences. Which is why the dice are so good. The dice like control your fate more than I do.
And I want to be really clear to Patrick and Andrew, I did write revenge in the book, so I'm just saying that's not off the table.
I hope it wasn't one of those death books. By the way, get my nerd on. Thanks for joining. Yeah. Yeah, we didn't see the book, so but go ahead.
But yeah, and again, individuals. So like the first campaign I came back to D&D after undergrad. My first campaign, I had my character, my backstory. I sat down, and within 5 minutes, like we came up to a beholder, and it disintegrated me. It would disintegrate. There's no coming back, right? And the DM's face was like, it was the dice. Like, do you want to just like turn back the clock? Like that is an option. We can just undo things But like I've played D&D enough to be like, no man, like I'll just write a new character. I'll be back next week. I'll just like hang out and eat snacks with you guys for now. So it'd be up to you. Like if someone in the table is just like really cool with like, hey man, I'm kind of bored of playing this magic user because it's too hard and he died, then like I'll re-roll and we'll figure out how to join the party. Cool. But again, super individual.
So speaking of that, something that we did talk about offline that I think is helpful to say kind of publicly. We will have people from time to time join this crew, and they will roll a character and they'll come in for 1 session or 2 sessions, right? Like, so the idea of there's going to be the 4 of us, but we will have guests from time to time show up. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's probably times where like one of you, I guess I have to show up. One of you won't be able to show up, and then like a guest could fill spots and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Write it into story.
Okay, so that's gameplay. That's a little bit about the setting. We introduced ourselves. So the last chunk is going to just be about character creation.
All right.
So I got questions for you, and then we can try to roll some characters. So the first big question is, do you guys want to try to plan this as a in sync group? Ooh, like a boy band group.
Like a boy band.
Or do you guys want to just do it in secret
A
and see what you come up
people
with?
band.
I don't want to be Chris Kirkpatrick. That's my only rule.
So when you guys
Big
plan a
Brother
group
reference.
together, anyone who's
Well,
played
in-sync
like
reference.
World of Warcraft or any RPG, there's like the roles, right? There's the tank, the DPS, the healer. That's like how you normally plan a group. But if
Do
you'd
wanna
rather
hear
not
something
do it that way, you
crazy?
can.
I like going off and learning about each other. I think it takes that away if we all know.
I
That's crazy.
did my slash played in Warcraft yesterday.
How many hours? Days?
I'm
Weeks?
up to 112 days. Which I guess over the course of like 10 years is not bad.
My
but-
brother,
It's
and this
10
was a
days,
while ago, I think past a year worth of days.
Oh
And
my
he
gosh.
stopped playing. He was just like, oh,
Reality
he's back. again, you know?
check.
He
Yeah,
came
yeah.
back. Anytime they put out expansion, he's like, I guess I'm back.
So I think so, Ray. To address what you said in relation to what you were asking, Will.
Yeah.
I think yes. I don't want to give away who our characters are, but I think my opinion would be that we do kind of assign. We want to
Classes.
assemble a good. We want to assemble a good group of people that would kind of set us up well.
To take roles.
So it's maybe in way of roles, but maybe not letting. We still want to get to know each other as like organically as the story unfolds. But
Right.
my opinion and my position would be that we do get like traditional, like we have a healer, we have a tank, we have like I think that at least for me that seems like that makes the most sense. It sets us up in a way that we're not all gonna be
The same thing.
the same thing, right? And not be able to be effective as a group.
So I guess like with that, Andrew and Patrick, I know you guys the best, so we're gonna ignore you for a second. Tracy and Ray, did you have like, so if you watch, and I know you guys have maybe less D&D experience, but like if you watch a movie, is like, do you guys have a favorite character or a favorite way to play a video game, or like did you have in your head like this is what D&D is going to be for me?
I've watched so much content on it. I feel like I can't even answer that. Like
Well,
hundreds of hours of
Then
different
then
shows. So
what do you? But for our campaign, what did you expect yourself to be? I know you've made a character already, so you
I was
should be
gonna
able to
say
say a
she's
role.
very
I was
clear
gonna say, how
expectations.
would I tell you?
So what role did you pick last night?
I don't think it's very hard to believe that I'm a little sneaky ass scavenger, like
Okay,
causing
damage.
trouble and hiding
Yeah,
like blunt objects, kind of
that's fine. Just damage.
in the shadows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tracy, did you have a thought about this?
In terms of like the actual role, like
Yeah, and not just like
character
class,
play or
but
just
like,
in general.
do you want to be the person that's like healing and helping? Do you want to be the person who's just like taking the hits to protect other people? Or do you want to be like a person who's like using their swords or powers to like damage?
I had like kind of the idea, like in reading like the first few like chapters of the characters, like I was hoping to go for like a Sundari vibe, where like I'm kind of like an asshole up front, but like yeah, maybe healer would work for that. And some of the things I was thinking, like I'm not entirely sure because I haven't looked it over specifically, but there's not a lot I'm against because I'm new. But yeah, do you want your healer to be an asshole? I don't really know. So I have to like
it.
I don't know why not.
I don't know
A
if I
healer with
trust Tracy to heal me right now.
A healer,
I like
a
it.
healer
That's
with
why I like it.
exactly
with
And
a
that's
taste
kinda
for
what I
revenge.
wanted. Like I kind of like I can heal you, but it's gonna hurt. Like
Exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I kind of love it a bit, and I also have like a specific race I had in mind and maybe backstory that might like unfold, and so I don't feel like that particular role would go against it. I actually think it might work. So only just now did I think like, oh yeah, maybe that healer spot might work well with like kind of what I was thinking of enrolling as like a personality and as a character
It
in this
feels
space.
different
So
too. It's not like that god like given helping everyone. It's like, bitch, I'm gonna rip this bandage off and shove some whatever on it and you're fine.
You
like,
practice like
look, I can see
bloodletting.
your intestines.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fine, okay? Like you're fine.
Peaches.
Like suck it up
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
take a lap. Like
Yes. I kind of love that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so it's like kind of what I'm feeling now, but again, like I don't know that many roles. Again, I'm coming from like a very vast
and I
amount
mean,
of
like-
ignorance. So
there only really are 3 roles, right? It's damage, it's defense, or it's healing. And then within those, there's lots of classes, and there's a lot of classes that like bleed over. So even
Yeah, I
for
think
like
I
2
lean
roles,
rogue. If it were a class, I'd lean rogue.
like the paladin has both healing and defensive
Right.
with some DPS, right? Like there's like people who do bleed, but the style of play changes. Like if you play a pure healer and you start a fight and no one needs healing, you can try to attack and do stuff, but like it's almost better just be like in the back being like, I'm helping, right? So
I kind of like that. Like again, with where I think I'm going, she's like, you got it, right? You're good. I think you're fine. I don't know. That might be hot. I'm gonna read up on it, but that's where I'm currently reading. I don't know.
I can
Patrick,
totally see
Andrew?
someone
No.
pissing you off and you making them wait as long as possible to give them the healing, so they just suffer a little longer.
I just love the idea of you're like you like drain blood from people and you employ like hard drugs, like you're still using cocaine and stuff like that, and so like you're really destructive in your practices, but you're super effective.
But we die without her.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
No, and again, the kind of like backstory I was thinking actually like blends pretty well with this, so I think that probably makes sense for me, at least at this iteration, assuming I don't die in level 1 or 2. I think that's a solid setup.
and we can
for the
try
first
not to
round.
do that. So Patrick, Andrew, you guys having played D&D, is there something you've wanted to play and haven't, or something you're really comfortable with that you just want to keep doing?
Yeah, I like being a rogue. I'm not playing one in my other campaign right now. And I keep wanting, like I'm fighting my natural urge to want to do things in a roguely way. And
You mean just being a real dick?
yeah. So I'm actually playing the tank in the campaign,
Sure.
the Philanderer campaign.
He's terrible at it.
Yeah, the Fandolin campaign, and I do okay, but I like sneaking around. I like being able to go on ahead and stealth. I like that role better, because I think generally speaking, I like being able to like be, deceptive and things like that. Like that feels more fun for me, because in real life I'm not great at hiding in real life. Like, I'm not quiet and sneaky in real life.
I'm from New Jersey, so like this is about as quiet as I get.
Where? Me too.
Where are you?
But I do like doing damage. Like I typically don't like to shy away from, like I get up in the mix. I don't like
Sure.
I don't shy away from it, because I know that there's been other games where I've watched where people who are people who shadow they stay out of conflict as much as possible unless it's like the last ditch effort. I'm not that way. So I still want to do damage. But I like to play as a rogue.
Sure. Patrick?
Yeah, I two things that I'll say. One is that I want to feel satisfied by my dice roll. So like if I have a good roll, I want it to do a shit ton of damage. And the second thing I would say is I want an excuse to kind of be plotting and planning. Like I want to be underhanded. Like I don't mind stealing from orphans. I'm fully okay with that. So if there's something that allows me to do a lot of damage,
you don't want to be very noble.
No. I really don't. I would rather be, but I don't want to be like sneaking through the shadows. It's not that. Like I want to be like up front, but I have no desire to like play things like straight.
Right.
And again, I want my dice roll to feel impactful. Like if I hit a good number, I want to just like blow everybody out of the water. Even if that means that it's to like the detriment of most of the time I'm not doing much.
So me and my brother have played D&D a very long time, and he rolled up a rogue, and with that, with like feats and all these other like stupid nerdy things, he was able to do 2 crossbow shots and a stab in one turn. So just like every turn it was just like, what are you gonna do? You're like, I don't know, like 40 damage. You're like, all right.
It sounds a little more powerhouse though.
What was
I'd be
that?
down for that.
It sounds a little more powerhouse, like going in there and smashing the shit out of things.
Yeah.
Like barbarian style, like fuck them up.
Like you're big, you're slow.
Yeah.
But God forbid
you're
you
an
take it.
idiot.
You're literally.
You wait.
And she's not even talking about the game. Like she's just
She's
I'm
just
kind of
riffing
loving
with
how
everybody else. It's fine. Okay.
Yeah, you're a real piece of trash.
Okay, so we can talk about this more, but so we're gonna try to assign roles. I think that's a good idea, just to make it the most fun. Not everyone be doing the same thing. If we want to roll some characters tonight, it won't be secret. Like, you'll know what each other are, but we won't go into backstory details or personality and all those things.
Can we maybe get like one roll
An example.
one character tonight?
Yeah.
And then go from there. Because Tracy, I think you said you wanted to roll a character, right? Like tonight.
Like I don't. It doesn't have to be tonight, but generally I've never done it before, and so I
Right.
expect in order to create the best like cohesive gathering where I don't have a bunch of holes that I didn't know about, I think a little bit of handholding would be, because I can do my own research. I can like put it together, but I don't know if you want to have that be like upfront so people who are also new can figure out kind of how it works too. So I'm really down for whatever. I can make it work, but I don't know
So
what I don't know, right?
what I would say is anyone who's like extraordinarily confident in like what they want to play should be the one that does it. Even like Tracy,
Right.
if there's a part of you who's just like, I don't really know, and you're just like, hey, can we get on a call in the next 2 weeks before we play, and we could just do it later? Like, that's totally fine as well. But I'd rather, like, if you're like, I want to be a healer, maybe, and then we roll up you a healer tonight, and then like 3 days from now, you're like, never mind. I don't want to pressure you into choosing a class right now if that's not something you want to do.
Was that your Tracy voice?
That's
I
why
hope
I'm not
not.
doing voices.
Never
I
mind.
thought the voices were offensive.
And that's why he stays away from them.
Mm,
I
yeah.
can't do voices. It's really bad.
Don't ever have Will read you a story. These are going to
I
be
don't
dry as
mind.
hell or racist.
Or both.
Or-
Was that Rush?
Was it
All right,
really?
so we'll come back to this when we're all done with characters. So the next thing I want to talk about is coming up with like a backstory or / personality. We talked about this on our DM chat last week. I don't remember when we did that, but something I recommend, especially if you're new to D&D, is when you're trying to think of a personality, one easy trick is to like pick a couple figures in media that you really like and kind of merge their personalities. So I think last week we were talking about Martha Stewart and Johnny Depp in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Combined.
Right. And just be like, all right, I like the way Johnny Depp walks around, kind of all drunkish, but I like some of the personality traits of Martha
Oh,
Stewart, who could be
swag.
kind of backstabby, maybe. Right. And all this allows you to do is like you wouldn't tell anyone these, you wouldn't share it with the group,
Okay.
but you'd have it on your paper just so like if there's an instance where you're like, oh man, what would I do? You can just think, what would Martha Stewart do? If
Don't
you,
we all
if
do
you
that anyway?
if there is something in your head, you're like, I know exactly what personality I want, then you don't need this. But I know for me, like personalities is something that I usually struggle with. I'm really good at the nerdy part of gameplay, but the role playing is a little harder. So even for my NPCs, I'll like have this down. So it's just like, okay, he's supposed to be this character from whatever.
What would Martha Stewart do? Yeah, WWMSD. I love it, Lauren.
Also,
Here's a by the way, here's a suggestion we got. Ebenezer Scrooge, but
Yeah.
Michael Caine from Muppet Christmas Carol specifically. Jeff Goldblum was a big suggestion.
that makes sense.
We of course had
Would we do him justice though?
of course we had Brendan Fraser.
Which
No,
one?
we had the mummy Brendan Fraser, and then we had fat Brendan Fraser.
No, don't you
He's
disrespect
sad.
him?
He disrespected himself.
Sad.
Bitches,
did
you're getting
not.
on our list.
Yeah,
List
he
too
did
now.
not.
We're already on Tracy's list. so
I'm the
it's-
DM.
You better hope
Will's
that this
dancing
isn't
now,
Girls
though.
Against Guys.
Will is dancing about being added to the book. Patrick and Andrew are already there.
Yeah.
They did it
I can
five.
take a lot of NPCs down with me. All of them.
So another aspect is one of the easy, and this is not to anyone at the table, right? This is often me when I was first playing D&D, often my brother, playing like the dark edgelord character who's doesn't have any friends and is always like outside of the pact gets old pretty quick, right? When you are like the outside, it really just like breaks up the party. And like there's a saying in D&D, like don't split the party. But like when you're like that one, like the emo in the corner, you're even though you're in the same room, like you split the party.
That's pointed at
Try.
Ray.
I
You
will
gotta imagine that.
try. I can't promise anything.
And
I
because
mean,
of
the good thing is I'm good at story, so I'll make it work.
sure, and right, and really, this is not like I don't give hard like rules, right? That's not a rule. It's just like something to think about, like. If I'm this and all the parties always like interacting with each other and I'm playing 6 feet away, like, am I contributing at all to the story growth? And more than that, am I helping make a story I actually want to play, or is a story being made that I'm just a part of?
Totally.
Again, with that, there's like 2 more parts. So you guys as a party will have to have come up with a reason to be together, right? There's got to be something that there's like a common goal or something that you guys are trying to do. Money, fame, revenge. Like these are all things that could gather a group.
I feel like Ray has one already.
I have a question. No, I actually have a question. I don't go beyond my scope. I know what the fuck I'm doing. But that was the question. Is like some DMs create the situation where they meet and then others have them kind of come up with it before. So you want us to come
so
up
like
with
right
that?
now,
Okay.
that the book I gave you guys is what we would call like a setting. There isn't a story plot line for you guys. There's major events happening all around you. What I'm going to have you guys do is kind of start the story by figuring out how you guys came together. And then hopefully you can give that to me early enough that we can start the campaign off whatever that starting point is. Yeah.
We've heard the cafeteria in Ring 8 has a really good burrito. And we
We're
want to
breaking
try
in.
it.
Getting to Ring 8 is your quest.
The burrito in the cafeteria on Ring 8.
Is the quest.
So you're saying not how we came together as a group to start it. You're saying you want us to come together for the actual quest, like what we want to start doing.
I just
first?
want you guys like, why are you doing anything together?
Yeah.
Got you.
Why
okay,
are we
that's what I
here?
thought. I
Why
just
are
wanted to
we
be
here?
clear.
Because what I could do is just
the
like
Ring 8 cafeteria really threw me. So like, thank you.
We all heard about this burrito.
like one of
Patrick's
the like,
not making it up.
one of the
Let him hear
classic
it.
starts is just like you guys are all in a tavern.
Meet in a bar.
And something happens, and for some reason, you all decide to be heroes that day, and that starts your friendship. But that really doesn't make any sense. Like, there's no reason
Not
to
with this
leave the
group.
bar. You would never leave the bar together, right? You might get some high fives and get some drinks together, but like, you're not gonna leave the comfort of your home with these people because you killed a monster at a bar. Like, we have to eventually figure out like either you all need like again like money's an easy one, searching for fame, looking to overthrow a political party. Like there's
Getting
always like
off the
revenge,
ring.
getting off the ring for some reason.
So is that something that we should hop onto our private channel?
Slack, yeah.
And the four of us just kind of just chat it out, throw out some ideas, and okay.
So we're for sure not going with the burrito idea.
Well,
I wouldn't say for sure.
My second point is you guys should kind of figure out what you're coming together with. But it's really helpful for me as a DM, but also for your character to have purpose if you each come up with like an individual goal. And I listed some in my research for this day. Luke in Star Wars wanted to get off Tatooine. That's the only reason he joined. Even before joining the Jedis, he was talking about enjoying the Imperial Academy, right? He didn't care what side he was on. He was just getting off Tatooine. Deckard from Blade Runner was bullied out of retirement, right? They were like, either you're going to help us hunt these guys or we're going to make your life miserable. Like he didn't want to do it. He was pulled out or pulled back in. Duncan, Idaho, went to Dune early because he was ordered to, right? He didn't choose to go to Dune with his small squad. He was sent there. Dr. Lewis Banks wants to save the world, right? All these people have these like core that are almost outside of the story, but it's a reason for why they're doing the thing they're doing. So this is a really cool piece of like your background. Just like, what is the thing? Patrick, your character could be like, man, I really want to go try this burrito on Ring 8. Like, I'll do whatever I can personally to get to Ring 8. Maybe that is outside of the core story, but like, if I know you want to do as a player, we can like write that into things and just build something together.
Probably won't go that route, but I'll think about it.
He's going to go that route. He's just trying to double fake us.
I mean, it could be a personality trait. Doesn't mean I'm going to help you do it.
I can tell you're not going to help me do it. Just to be clear.
I think we've made a very clear picture of what Ray is and isn't going to help us do.
See, I think of it more as you're gonna think that I'm helping you get the burrito, but maybe there's something else up there I want.
She's gonna eat the burrito. No, she's gonna let you get to it, and then she's gonna slap it out of your hand onto the ground.
And
Yeah.
what I
That's
do.
what you want more than anything. Is to steal your joy.
And then
that's her
split it with
motivation.
Tracy.
And that's her motivation.
And then we walk away.
Hey,
High five and scene.
jetpacks
Yep.
and roller skates. Thank you for the 1 month Prime sub.
Hey, wait, did he get a founder's badge because of that?
I don't know how that works, to be honest.
I got one because I gave a sub early.
Patrick would have no idea because he's never
Because
been able
I'm
to
not
do it.
allowed to.
It sure looks like he has, because look at his fancy little first badge.
Yeah, that looks good on you.
So the difference between like the reason your group came together, that has to be public. If you want to keep your private or your solo goal to yourselves and only share it when you need help doing it, totally fine with me. I need to know though.
Yeah, okay. So we can like have a little
Will and
private
I-
powwow.
Right.
Okay.
Or you can just
Will
send
and
me
I
a
need to
DM.
talk.
You
Yeah,
just send
we
me
need
be
to
like,
talk.
hey, this is what I want to do. I'd be
We
like,
need to talk.
cool.
Because I mean, you're also gonna see where things overlap and may not work. So
Right. Well, and if I know there's a reason we want to go to ring 8, now I'm gonna be like, okay, like we'll finally figure out how to get to ring 8 eventually. Like my goal as a DM is to like you guys have fun and for you guys to achieve the goals you want and like to be the characters that you imagine, with maybe killing one or two of you.
Are you wanting like reasonable goals?
I don't care.
they don't have
up
to
to you.
be.
What I would also say is because your goal
Even
could
in a
be
fantasy world, I'm afraid of setting goals that are too high.
I was just gonna say, you're gonna
Unrealistic
dream
goal.
reasonably.
You're gonna give him anxiety.
what I would also say is
I
because your
just want to
goal
make it
is
to another day, Will. Can that be enough for this?
Can affordable healthcare be what I'm
in
going for?
D&D, just the next day probably isn't enough.
In a streamed D&D.
Well, no, like the idea of like the next day makes you cook burgers at the restaurant, right? Something has to make you want to go and potentially put yourself in danger, and self-reliance or self-survival is like not a thing, right? Like the best way to do that is just to lock your front door.
Yeah.
We're never gonna even stay in our door. All right, so that's like kind of just the big sweeps that I
Now
want
I
to
don't
talk
remember
about
if I locked
characters.
my front door and I'm having anxiety. But go ahead.
Text Mackenzie.
Patrick really wants to make it till tomorrow.
It's okay, you got 3 pencils, you're fine.
Mark Bowden is on board with the burrito caper. I want to
Of
be
course
clear.
he is.
I would not put
Nope.
capers on a burrito, but I
That's
like the
true.
idea of the burrito caper.
Gross.
All right, so
Mark, you're
does
supposed
that
to be on
kind of
my side.
does that give you guys some ideas of like what to do for your characters? What I think is more of a waste of time, and this is going to make some people sad, is like the 2-page document backstory about how you grew up and what made you be on ring 4. Like all that might not matter most of the time, right? Like if you need it to know how your player reacts to things and those type of things, as a DM, like I'm going to take care of your goals and I'm going to take care of a storyline and why you came together. I'm going to incorporate all that. I'm probably not going to be able to incorporate 2-page backstories for each of you. It's just
It's only 2
True.
paragraphs.
Actually, let me
Oh.
ask this because I think this will help me.
please.
If you're born into 4, what is the possibility you actually do make it to 5 or to 6 over the course of your life? Or is it kind of like if you're born into 4, you're staying in 4?
No, so out of like the lower class rings, 4 is not the worst, right? 4 is probably like the one that's almost on the edge of leaving.
Middle class?
I would still say it's lower class, but like maybe lower middle.
It was the middle class 30 years ago.
The economy. But you guys
Inflation.
you all have access to ring 6 where all the people come together.
Okay.
So like there are ways to like make friends, get money, earn with heavy quotation marks,
Deal shit.
get your way to a higher ring, right?
Okay.
I would say it's the same thing, kind of like how our world works, where like if you're born in a rural town or a lower urban setting, like there's ways to get out of it. It might not be easy, but there are exit strategies, usually having to do with attaching yourself to someone who's not there. Does that make sense?
Sure.
But again, like if
And
you
this
have
will-
another idea, we'll just work it in.
This might be included in the pamphlet, which I will read eventually. But when I understand the leaving, like the leaving the rings, like is there, like when we say leaving, do we mean like permanent residential reassignment, or can you like work on ring 7 but then you go home at the end of the day to ring 4? When we say leaving, what does that mean?
Mark just asked that same question. This is great. He wants to know if the burrito guy lives on 8.
I'd have to go through my rings and see which one ring 8 is. So with remembering ring 4, like you could potentially work on ring 6.
Okay.
It would
Right.
probably
You get
not
like a
be...
day pass.
Well, no,
Yeah.
so you just have a pass. Anyone can go up there, right? Ring 6 is like the mixing bowl or mixing
except
pot.
for ring 1. Everyone
Right.
but ring 1 can go up there.
And the reason, I mean, just
We should go to
getting
ring
nerdy, the idea of ring 1 was never meant for people. Those are usually like outlaws who are hiding or people who just like fell down the ladder, right? So the captain doesn't even see ring 1 as being inhabited.
Okay.
And because
it's like
of that,
it's like the trash compactor.
Are you saying
and
ringworm?
The Death Star.
no.
Okay.
But maybe it's the accent. I should stop doing
Wait.
it.
Okay. So, Ray, how do you feel about us going to ring 1 instead? I feel like your secret cabals would be there.
I'd probably hang out in ring 1.
Love it.
And
Just for fun, just to unwind.
being on ring 4, you would have access to ring 1 because it's lower.
Yeah.
That's how those numbers work.
Can I ask another question
Mhm.
that's slightly off topic? Do you have a large pickle on your shelf back there?
This thing?
Yeah, what is that?
It's little cyborgs with these blue wombs. It's like baby wombs.
No,
and
wait,
stuff.
wait.
Weirder than a pickle.
Is it a skate deck?
No, this
Is it
That-
a skate
that
deck?
one
Oh,
is.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
skate
it's a
deck.
skate
That
deck.
one's a screen print
Okay.
from a friend.
I thought
That's
it
my
It
might
looks
be-
like a
Without
pickle,
you
kind of.
album.
Like
No,
an
I thought it was
inflatable
a-
pickle.
Yeah, a large inflatable pickle, and I just noticed it.
Should I grab it and bring it closer for you?
No,
Well,
I like
because-
the idea of thinking that it's gonna always
It is a
have been a
pickle.
pickle. Yeah,
I just realized it because he's actually been reading the entire
I
pamphlet.
just
instead of
finished
looking at
chapter
you.
7, and
So,
I've got some stuff to say.
I don't think my students would watch this. So I had a student yesterday who everyone was presenting. He had not done the work, and then he did the work while they were presenting, and then presented it, and it was totally wrong because he wasn't watching what everyone else did. I was that student too when he was age.
I've
so
definitely
grace.
done that.
Yeah.
Okay. But I have a sidebar because technically if like 6 we could go to anyway, then my question still applies. So anything above 6, things that you wouldn't automatically be granted to in order to gain access to those that are not auto access for those of us on 4,
Mhm.
what does leaving look like? Do you, in order to get there, is it essentially special clearance? There's no casuals allowed above 6
So-
essentially?
To get permanent access to the above rings, you need to get permanent residence, which means you would have
Okay.
to have an address, like a mailing address there.
Nice.
You could potentially get your ID hacked. You could potentially get someone else's ID. You could there's other ways, but the legal way of leaving ring and going up rings is residence. There's all
You can't work. You can't have an employment status on a higher ring if you work. Okay,
Mhm.
or if you So the only people who can work in those rings are people who are either above that ring or that ring.
But that doesn't make sense because you'd have like the maids and the service and like.
That's what I'm. That's what
So
I'm trying to
Technology,
understand.
it's all robots.
Can I was going to read off the rings for you guys real quick.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ring 1 is the engine cooling bay. It was just made to keep the engine cool to get off station. So that's where all the people who aren't seen as people live.
But there's like a dope pool there too, isn't there?
There's like a cooling
the
pool for
reactor
the
pool.
engine. hmm
Yeah.
But the reactor's pretty dead now, or the engine's dead. The reactor just powers the station.
Pretty
so it's,
confident
weird.
that's how you become a superhero is to swim in that reactor pool.
That's the origin story of all superheroes.
Level 2 was a prison, but they built a prison on the moon that goes tutorial. So 2 has become this rogue market. So
Isn't
all
a
the cells,
bugbear like sell shit there?
yeah. So all the cells have been taken over, and it's where you could buy illegal wares.
Black
3 is
market.
3 is a factory that was making Warforged, which are the robot people in D&D, but now really just make parts to repair the station. 4 is where you guys live. It's called the low-class housing. 5 is an agricultural bay. So any fresh food that's built or grown on this thing is on the agricultural bay. 6 is terminal. That's where the visitors come. So it's the mixing pot. 7 is the bay of law. So the court system and the judges all live on that, separated from the rest of the people. So if
8
you
is the
guys
Taco Bell.
if
We
you
knew
guys
that
go to
already.
7, it's only bad
Huh?
news.
Starbucks.
Okay,
That's
we're
where the
only
cops
going
are?
there.
What was that?
Is that where the cops are stationed? Is that all law enforcement essentially?
No, it would be above law enforcement. So
Okay.
there's a whole judge system and punishment system built
Get
onto
in
this.
trouble.
I mean, it's been a long time. I've been writing this for a long time.
If it's in the booklet, I'll read it. It's
No,
fine.
I
I'm
mean,
going
no,
to read this.
no.
But...
So there's these judges who live there, and I believe the governors, but I have to go and the governors live there too.
Can you serve on a jury duty? Or do you only go there because you are in trouble?
and it's not even like small things. Like if it's like death crimes, that's when you go there.
Can
Okay.
someone
Like,
from
like
Mark
Supreme
wants to
Court.
know if someone can from 4 could go to school and become a judge on 7.
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's
Like really rigid class system.
And I remember the governors are like, it's family. They're not even voted in. It's like you just get to be the next.
So when-
governor.
dynastic.
Nepotism.
It's
when the
dynastic
station
at
was
that point.
launched, like as a reward,
Dynasties.
like different races were given different classes, and then it's just through family. So that's 7. 8 is the middle class housing. So there would not be any jobs there, right? People who work on 8 would work on 6 most
So
likely.
there's no cafeteria on 8.
No, just homes.
So it's a secret menu.
But the extremely successful burrito person on ring 6 could live on ring 8.
Yeah.
I love how food oriented you are, Patrick. This is going.
He just hasn't had dinner yet, and so it's just very poor.
Yes.
You'll
This
notice
is true.
each
To
week
see-
his mission and his shadow mission will always be whatever's at the very forefront of his mind.
Yeah.
It'll always be that.
But like with a battering ram, I kind of love this as a character development piece. Where's the food? Can I hit shit?
Did you mean to
And
say a battered ram? Yes.
Battering ram.
Ring 9 is called the
Covered.
recreational bay. So ring 9 is like ring 6, but for everyone above ring 6. So it's like there's restaurants there that the middle class would probably work in, not the lower class. Ring 10 is upper class housing. So like we're
Bocce
hitting
ball
the upper echelon. 11 is the captain's quarters and 12 is the bridge.
11 is just the captain's quarters. Period. There's nothing else there.
Mm-hmm.
How many captains are there?
Yes, that's my question.
You like, and those would be like the mysteries of the
Don't
station. I mean,
know.
I probably wrote it and it's probably in there. So if you want to spoil it,
I
but
think
your,
I know the name.
your characters would not know.
Jeff?
It's Clint.
And so 12 is on the outside. 1 is on the inside.
No, oh, I'm so
of each
sorry.
sitting-
So
like, what's the orientation of
stacked.
the size of
do
these rings?
you have Notion
They're
up
stacks. Okay.
Look in the
Okay.
there's a picture. There's
There's a
literally a
picture.
drawing.
Imagine a
and
finger
a diagram?
with 12 rings on it.
Rings stacked
Okay.
down.
Or an
Ooh,
arm.
maybe
Like that
Nice.
old school
I might have
toy
like build
from,
that imagery into
from
it,
like
'cause
Little
that's really
Tykes,
good.
where they have like the colored rings that you have to get on there.
Yes, exactly like that.
The doctor's office thing.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
again, there's a size differential there, and so I need to know if any of these rings are bigger than the others. No, I will find the picture. I will find
Don't
it.
worry. There's no pressure, and that's a good question. If it's like
Mark
goes in
and
or not.
Tracy are so in sync, by the way, because Mark literally asked that question while you were asking that question. It's crazy.
Mhm.
But yeah, he wants to know, are higher rings narrower, or are they all the same size?
So 4 is the widest. 3, 2, 1 gets smaller. So 1 is like really small, and it gets bigger, bigger, bigger. 4, and then it all varies in the middle.
Okay.
I
How
see
about
it.
this? How about
It's a
for
cool
next
picture.
week? Next week we can figure out how
Can
to
you show
screen
me?
share some of these things.
Yeah.
Next week
Yes.
we'll plan on showing you some of this stuff. So
Yes.
come back.
It's important.
Not next week. 2 weeks from now. 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Standard or Central.
You can also share it on social media.
I think so. If you go to
Things going.
if you go to the DN Designers Pod and scroll, there is pictures of the station on there. Okay.
Also, drop that link to the image in the chat.
Oh, that's
I
a good
got it.
question. I think I can. Oh, Andrew, you doing it?
Well,
We got
are
a bunch
you
of
logged?
designers in here. We'll have this whole thing marketed in no time.
Well, if you're in there, I didn't see
Yeah,
you in
one
the
sec.
chat, so
Oh,
I didn't
he
know that.
Will can't, because Will's not a admin or a moderator. That's what I meant to say.
Oh, that's true. I can't. You're right. I could put in the chat and whereby for you if you want.
Yeah, don't do it in whereby. Just send it in Slack, and
Slack.
then I'll drop it.
Yeah. We got it. It's on the way.
I think that's it. So try to open that and see.
We're all visual people.
Not
You're
cool,
literally
not
sending
cool,
this to
cool,
designers.
beat us
We
to
need
it.
to see it.
So
All right,
Tracy,
everybody, here we
when
go.
we
This
first
is
started
it.
this podcast, the saying was Dungeons and Designers where visual artists play non-visual games or something. It was clever that, but the whole idea was like, how do we play a game without visuals when that's all we do for a day job?
It
We
will
decided
not
we
let me-
couldn't, and then we started drawing maps.
Okay.
It's
So-
it has a character limit of 500, and apparently your link is bigger than 500.
No, listen.
Hey,
Listen.
Notion's wild.
Lauren already shared it above here, so just delete your comment. Lauren already shared
Oh,
it.
The
Lauren,
Instagram.
thank you,
the
Lauren.
Instagram one is tiny.
Okay.
It is.
So we can come
It's
back
good
to
though.
this. We got like 25 minutes. I don't know if we're gonna make a character or not. We'll see how this goes. for you guys, because we're not rolling together, I think it's just easier for everyone to be honest and just use standard array. So when you roll your stats, traditionally you roll 4 dice, and then a lot of the time you get a lot of low numbers, which blows. And then you'd want to re-roll. If you just do the standard array, which is 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, 8, if you just Google it, or if you just ask me, I'll give it to you. What you do then is you just put those into your different skills. So like and you would put the biggest numbers wherever your class needs it. So it's just easier. I think it's a little bit more straightforward, especially if you're uncomfortable with like having a terrible character. Like that can be rough. Any published class or race, like we talked about, other than Genasi, like that really is like the one that's like, if you're a Genasi on this, like you would have been killed. Genasi weren't even allowed to leave Toril, so they had to like escape Toril by going to other planes of existence. So like, don't play them. It's just not fun. If you go to that Notion document, again, you don't need to look now. I put some new backgrounds. So part of character creation, you pull a background. I made like a handful for our setting. So if you don't want to use just a generic one from D&D, you can use one from here. I think that's like all of my ranting for the night.
Okay.
There's a lot to learn, and we're going to learn it over weeks, not hours. So really don't worry if you're like, this was too much. Like next week, we probably won't even cover most of this because your existence will be on ring 4. Right. Yeah. And for the foreseeable future, you're not going to probably leave ring 4 other than maybe ring 6. So for most of your lives, like that's all you're going to know. There's no reason to know what ring 12 is, right? Because that's just outside of your immediate reality.
And the more that I've like read about the characters and the races and stuff like that, I'm less concerned about rolling a character right now for me, because I want to read more and develop what I want more than just kind of selecting something. I've already kind of been jotting down notes of, okay, I know this is a race that I want to be
in. Potentially
do. Gave us so much to work from.
I'm
so
sorry.
That's totally true. No, in a good way.
Yeah, what a jerk, Will.
We don't have to like.
I have some obsessive tendencies, and I like sent you guys this like last week. I was just like, oh man, like it's almost embarrassing.
You're preaching to the right choir, though.
Yes,
like
you
your tendencies are our tendencies, so we're nerding out with it. It's a good
thing.
Great,
I love it.
Yeah.
One thing we could do is if you guys like next week, one of you just wants to like make a character and jump on Twitch, like I could just jump on with you and we could do it live. Or if at any point you're just like, hey, I've got questions, not you guys in chat, the people around our table, you can just DM me on Slack and I'll answer pretty immediately. Or we could also plan a call, just like, hey, can we roll a character tonight? And we'll figure it out.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
I dig that.
We just need to schedule you out.
Well, I'll go and tell you, let's and if it's like Tracy wants to join, that's fine. But if it's just like me or Andrew, we can, if that's a lot easier, we can. But let's plan on doing one on stream during our at the end of our pop culture roundtable on Monday. Because I think
when do you start that?
Get some people excited about that to come and join us on Thursday.
Starts at 7 p.m. Central Time.
I was gonna say, plug it here.
Yeah. So 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central.
You don't have to lead with Eastern time, but yes.
We'll probably jump on and do this around 2 hours after that then?
Yeah, exactly. Probably about 2 hours after. So that would make it 9 o'clock Central. But yeah, jump on.
That's fast math.
That's what I'm bringing to this. Math simulator. Yeah, so we'll just do our pop culture roundtable recording. We do our podcast record. When that finishes, we'll roll a character after.
I'm usually lurking.
Yeah, for sure.
Usually lurking around. So
yeah, you're usually there.
Is there any other questions or concerns or like worries that you guys might have? Because I would love to squash those really quick.
I'm really excited, Will, to jump into this. There is so much stuff, and like I think of all the games I've played, and I've only played a few campaigns, but like this is the most I'm excited to like actually develop something on my own. I've used a lot of pre-built stuff and I've made it my own, but this is like I get to kind of be ground floor, and I'm really excited to kind of dig into that. And I know that you're going to be like, I'm not worried at all about the gameplay, because I know that you're going to kind of coach through that, and it's going to be fun. So I'm excited.
Ray, you probably watched enough D&D to kind of understand some of this stuff. Tracy, like if you do not know how to play at all next time we play, like don't worry. I think it actually could potentially be beneficial for like the first few games we play to almost be learning for like people who are watching too. That's something like we cut out of our other shows, like all of it. Like anytime somebody asks a question, I was just like clip. But it might be nice for like people to be able to come to the first few episodes and be like, oh, I'm learning like a level 1 player. So
Yeah.
I am not worried.
Good.
I am not.
I am.
And, like, you should be.
Well, Patrick has to be because those frames are a
That's what I
mess.
was saying. I'm not worried. They may want to watch out over there.
Yeah,
worried
I have
for
to.
you.
I have to.
Yeah, exactly.
I have to roll a character that never actually fully sleeps, or my other 2 party members are going to kill me during the night.
So elves do this trance thing. They actually don't sleep. So maybe you want to be an elf.
I don't think I have a choice, to be honest.
Kind of sounds like that's the direction it's going.
All right.
Awesome.
I mean, we got 15 minutes left in our 2-hour block, but I think if we're not going to roll a character and everyone's good, we could probably get off a little bit early.
Yeah. Any questions, Tracy? Any questions, Andrew?
No, sir. Thank you,
Any questions, Ray? Will, do you have questions?
Oh, man, I think I asked all my questions.
Great. Okay, so in that case, awesome. Again, Monday is Pop Culture Roundtable. Starts at 7. We will roll a character at the end of that record. So subscribe to get notifications, or follow to get notifications, and of course subscribe because we love it. But then you'll get a notification when that actually starts. And then our next session here is going to be 2 weeks from now. It'll be the 4th Thursday. So these always fall on the 2nd and 4th Thursday. Very easy to remember. It'll be at the same time, 7, 6 Central. I just feel like I'm on an ABC show every time I say 7, 6 Central. I really like it.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I say East Coast is because someone, I think on the DM's chat was like, you really should start with East. And I was like, great. And I got to do the math in my head for 1 hour difference.
Yeah, I'm the one that said that. And then also, if you want to...
us East Coasters appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's the natural
I will
way.
show up at the wrong time.
My car radio is kept at Eastern, so I know when my family's time is.
Oh, that's so thoughtful. I don't care about my family. So
I make my whole family change to my time zone. And they live in Guatemala, so it's totally apt.
I like your style. If you want to follow the show on, I should say, if you want to join the conversation on Slack, because a lot of this conversation will happen in Slack. We are all in Slack, so if you want to ask questions, contribute, all that kind of stuff. I'm sorry, Mark. You're just kind of on your own on an island, literally.
It's okay. I'll text
Isn't that just ocean? Do people live in Atlantic
Send
time?
it to you.
He lives in Ring 12. He doesn't want to be. He knows.
No.
Yeah, he knows. M of
I
one
just let
network.
Mark know what he needs to know. I weed out the bullshit for him.
M of one.network, you can click Slack and you can join us there, and then you can ask questions, and we'll throw links to this, of course, in socials. This will be on YouTube, so if you sub to the show, you have access to all the videos we post for the last 60 days, and then this series, specifically Dungeons and Designers, you'll be able to find over on YouTube, youtube.com/M of one podcast, and then otherwise, you can just talk to us directly in Slack or on our own socials, and those are on the little frames around. So Tracy Ching is at Tracy Ching, Ray is at Inked Flame. I don't know why I'm doing it for you, and then of course there's at Andrew Sell with 3 instead of E's, and at Will Truan. And now Will, I'll let you close it out.
Yeah, guys, thanks for joining. Players, thank you, listeners or watchers, for experiencing our session 0. I hope you guys had fun. I hope you're excited. I'm excited. So yeah, I hope to see everyone in 2 weeks. You can follow, did you say you can follow at M of One Podcast on Instagram? And you can follow at DN Designers Pod on Instagram, just because that's the stream I post only this.
Sure.
But yeah, go join the Slack, reach out, ask questions. If you have D&D specific questions, I would love to chat D&D. I can't talk about it enough.
Can I say one thing before we sign off?
Yeah.
Go check out Tracy's and Ray's page, because they do incredible artwork and incredible design stuff, and you can just go ahead and not worry about Patrick or I, but go check out their stuff.
Yeah, just ignore the 3 dudes.
I don't even have a handle over there.
And then and then you'll realize that we're in for a treat.
I want to point out that I don't know if Mark said facts to the fact that they do great work, or facts to the fact that we do bad work.
I think we all know, and let's just move on.
All right, that's it, Will?
I think that's it.
All right, I'm going to close this out. Music's coming up. We're about to disappear. Bye, everybody. Have a good night. Thanks for joining.